everybody. I'm so thrilled to be with you this Tuesday afternoon. I am Suzanne Evans. I'm the founder of Driven Inc. And I'd love for you just to put in the chat, if you've never been to one of my trainings before, put me in the chat if this is the first time that you have been in one of my trainings. All right, Judith and Gavin, Tony, Carlina, I love that. Cheryl, Colleen, Yasmin, Carl, welcome. I'm so thrilled to meet you. I'm thrilled to connect with you. For those of you that are back for one of my trainings or you've been in one of my trainings before, how the hell are you? Where the hell you been? It's so good to see you. I'm thrilled to have you as well. So here's the deal. I know a thing or two about finding an audience. Actually, it's my specialty. I'm going to start with a great quote that comes from my history, my background. And the quote is, "You never change your act, you always change the audience." Let me say that again, because you should all write it down. You don't need to change your act, you need to change your audience. So for the most part, and I'm going to go into this, I'm going to go into this a little bit. It's that as long as you have a clear problem that you solve, don't worry about that right now. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. As long as you have a clear problem that you solve, then you don't really have an act problem. Our acts could always be better. Don't we agree? Thumbs up at the screen. We could always be better. We could always do better. We could always, come on, y'all. I said put your thumbs up at the screen. We're going to learn to work here. I'm a disciplinarian. If you've never been on a call with me or a training with me, commitment and discipline is what breeds success. So I'm going to ask you to do things and you're going to do them. And I'm going to show you things and you're going to grab them. And I'm going to teach you things and you're going to use it to go and live a better life and help people and make people better and freer and thinner and happier and more successful and all of those things. But it starts with you showing up. I am not a lazy ass teacher. I think you can see that already. And so I don't want you to be a lazy ass audience. Let me tell you what's wrong with so much virtual training. And I love virtual training. I do my big events virtually, is that people show up half-ass. They show up half-ass. They show up late. I know you don't, Gavin. Gavin's like, I have to eat and I'm still going to be on camera because you're committed. Gavin is committed. He was the first person on. He was on camera. He's in a professional background and he's ready to roll. And the reason I am being such a bossy Betty is because it is the biggest problem business owners have. They truly believe that you can put in a half directed effort and get out a full result. And it just won't happen. You're going to hear my story in a minute. And I am all about work ethic and I'm all about commitment. And I'm all about discipline. And I'm all about making sure that you show up fully. And I get it, Tony. I know there's some people who can't get on camera. You made this and you're in your car. I usually have a 7-year-old that's popping up at some time and scaring the hell out of me behind my back because he's crawled under the desk. I get it. But for the most of you, you should be able to be on camera. All of you should be engaged, right? And so I'm going to push you on that. You want to find your audience, but you're a terrible audience. Okay, take that for a second. Can I get a chuckle and a thumbs up? I mean, I want you to take that in for a second, right? It's like, I'm out here to find my audience, but yet, right? Like I kind of resist being an amazing audience. When I teach my clients in our speaker training, I say, you know, the best way to be a speaker that like nails it to the back wall, be an amazing audience member. So just put me in the chat if you have never done a speech in person or virtual for more than 25 people. Just put me. Like if you've never delivered a speech with more than 25 people. Awesome. I love that. I love that. Jessica and Carol and Yasmin and Katura. And I love Miss Rose. I love that name. And Denise and Lynn. I'm seeing the me come in. Let me share a secret with you. You can start being a great speaker today. Great speakers are great audience members. I want you to smile your fat little cheeks off at me. I want you to give me thumbs up. I want you to high five the screen. I want you to wake up. I want you to live your best life. I want you to be so excited about this training and so excited about your business and so excited about the opportunity to make more money. I'm going to take you to business church. Let's go, y'all. Can I get an amen in the chat? Let's do this thing. All right, I think we're awake now. So here's the deal. The best way to find your audience is to be an amazing audience, right? So here's the deal. I was asking you all, like, how many of you have, I forgot what I was asking when I went on my tirade. This also happens, but we'll just get back into what we were doing. So the deal is that if you can't find your audience, a lot of people keep changing their act. That's what we were talking about. And you're going to hear about this in just a minute, but from my Broadway theater background, the act can always take tweaking. It can always be getting better, but typically it's an audience issue because every act has an audience. That's your second writer down. Every act has an audience. So it is paramount that you find that audience for yourself, right? That you find that audience for yourself. So that's what I'm going to be teaching you today. I know a lot of you are new to me, and now I've yelled at you about being on camera, and you're like, who the hell is this crazy woman? Dressed in like a tracksuit. I'm going to the gym after this. Do you ever sometimes have to commit so much that you wear what it is you're going to get to the, like, I am committed to getting to the gym. I've just lost 82 pounds in the last 11 months. Yes, you know what? Because come for me, bitches, come for me, right? Whatever I want, I'm going to get. I am busting through my own limitations, and that's what we're all going to do today as well. But I'm committed to getting the gym, so I was like, I'm wearing what I know I will get up from this training for and go and do that. Although it turned nice out, I might actually go for a walk. So here's the deal. About 12 years ago, I was a secretary. I was a secretary working in the Broadway theater industry. I was making $45,000 a year, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I was not unhappy. It was an interesting job. I opened 5 Broadway shows. I put Usher into Chicago and Reba McEntire into Annie Get Your Gun. I met celebrities. It was fascinating, but I was broke, and I knew it wasn't what I was meant to do with the rest of my life. And I got what I like to call the itch. Can anybody relate to that? Have any of you been in a job, been in a life situation? Yep, right, where you're like, I got the itch. And so I knew that there was more that I wanted to do. And so I will not bore you with the details of how I sought that out and the long, kind of winding road that I took to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. But I landed on coaching. I'd never heard of coaching before, but seeking out possibly getting my doctorate in positive psychology, I came across coaching. I was fascinated by it. And I said, I think I need to hire a coach. I don't know what this is, but I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. I should probably hire a coach. So I did what any eventual highly successful entrepreneur does. I hired the cheapest coach I could find. I just interviewed people by how cheap are you? Now, remember, I was making $45,000 a year and I was $100,000 in debt, and I was working a 60-hour-a-week day job. Put 60 in the chat, 60-hour-a-week day job. But I hired a coach. And it was life-changing. And I really got clear that this is what I wanted to do. And so I took the bull by the horns, like all entrepreneurs do. I was so typical for people you see that just have, success at the speed of light. I got ready to get ready, to start to get ready, to think about getting ready, to plan, to almost be ready to start planning to launch my business. Can any of you in this room relate to that? I got ready to get ready. So I'm working a 60-hour weekday job. I'm trying to start this coaching business. And we had just opened Seussical the Musical to a $12 million loss. Things were not going well in the office, folks. I came in one Monday morning and they had taken the snacks and the sodas away, and all we were left with was the water bubbler. If you've ever worked in corporate, you know the first sign of trouble is they take away the sodas, right? So things were not great. And I'm trying to get this business going, and we need to open a new show. And so things are really stressful. And so we are trying to get Sweet Charity, the musical Sweet Charity, to Broadway. And Christina Applegate was starring in Sweet Charity at the time. And so the way Broadway theater works is you take the show out of town to tweak it, to bring it in town. So we're bringing it in town. My 60-hour weekday job is now turning into a 70-hour weekday job because we're in what we call wet tech, which is dress rehearsals. And Christina Applegate has broken her ankle in Detroit, and she broke her attitude in Minneapolis. And so nothing is going as we had planned. And so we're trying to get this show off the ground. And I really just want to be out of this job and start my coaching business. So I'm sitting on the third row of the theater and we're in dress rehearsal. And all of these women with legs way above my head, these gorgeous showgirls, come to the front of the stage. And there's this song in Sweet Charity. And they sing, there's got to be something better than this. There's got to be something bigger to do. And when I find that something better to do, I'm going to get up, get out, and go live it. And I went, shit, they're singing to me. When I find that something better to do, I'm going to get up, get out, and go live it. And you know that God has a sense of humor because we ran that number 27 times that night. It had a lighting issue. And I was like, folks, I get this. I'm an evolved woman. I DVR Oprah. If we've got anybody on here under 32, a DVR is a little box that we all used to have where we would record our shows. And I DVR Oprah. I know first you get the whisper, then you get the tap, then you get the 2x4. If I don't start my business tomorrow morning, my ass is going to get hit by a cab. And I did. I started my business the next morning. I got my first 2 clients who each paid me $50 each. And I went on in that year while working a 60-hour-a-week day job. I went on to build a 6-figure business as a side hustle while I worked a 60-hour-a-week day job, making $50,000 a year. I got a little raise. I did not quit my job. Why? You want to write this down. A job is the best business loan you will ever have. You don't have to pay it back and there is no interest. I stayed in that job for year 2 and I built my business to over $250,000 a year, a coaching business as a side hustle while I worked a 60-hour-a-week day job. Now, I know you're on the verge of thinking I'm a real idiot. I've yelled at you. Now I'm making $50,000 in a day job and $250,000 in a side hustle. I did eventually quit the job. I did. And that year we took the business to $1 million a year in under 10 months. And we went on to obviously build a multiple 7-figure business. I've had a multiple 7-figure business for over a decade now. I have landed, let's see if I have it here. I was using it last night. I landed on the New York Times bestseller list. This was my book that was number 5 on the New York Times bestseller list. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And I've been on the Inc. 500, 5,000 fastest growing companies in America for 5 straight years, which puts me on the honor roll, which I was the first woman coach to ever do that. Now, why do I tell you all of this? Well, for a few reasons. The first reason is I still have a little bit of student loan debt for that music degree. And so I promised to sing every chance I get so that I can really use that music degree. No, the real reason I tell you all that, because if a farmer's daughter from North Carolina who was fat, gay, and broke can build $1 million business and find her audience and find her client base and customers, certainly all of you here can do the same, whether it's a 6-figure business for you or it's an 8-figure business for you. But it starts with finding your audience. And what I really want you to know about that story is I only did 2 things. While I was working a 60-hour-a-week day job, I only did 2 things. I spoke. I was constantly looking for my audience. I booked speaking gigs with 8 people in the audience, with 20 people in the audience. I booked speaking gigs with 40 people in the audience. I didn't really do any huge gigs, probably much over 50 people, but I was speaking all the time to find my audience. And I did some networking so that I could find my audience. I really spent that first 1.5 to 2 years in an audience finding formula. Does that make sense, everybody? Because once you find your people, you can sell consistently and constantly. How many of you worry about money? Just put me in the chat if you do. How many of you worry about money? Right? I know I do sometimes. I think it's probably pretty natural, but I will tell you, it is very rare that I worry about money. And if I do, it is for a few minutes now in my life. Why? Because once you know how to find your audience, and you know how to speak to that audience, you will never worry about money again. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't matter what offer you're making. If you know how to find the right fit audience, you'll never worry about money again. How many of you, that sounds like a good thing to never worry about money again? Put a hell yeah in the chat and let's roll, folks, because that's what I'm going to teach you today. So I told you Are you happy now? Aren't you glad you stayed? Aren't you glad that you got me all riled up? When I'm riled up, I'm raring to go and I give better content. So I'm thrilled to be with you. So I started earlier by saying that it starts with the problem you solve. So first you must solve a problem. You must solve a problem. And that problem, here's the key to that, because I bet almost all of you, and I'm sorry, sometimes guys, it's hard to get that glare off of it. All of you think you solve a problem, but it must be a tangible problem. It must be tangible. So I'm going to take about 3 or 4 people right now, and I'm going to say, what is the problem you solve in business? And I'm going to have you raise your hand, and I want to hear what it is. And I'm going to let you know if it's tangible or not. And if not, I'm going to do a little coaching with you, and that'll support other people on the call. So you can raise your hand at the bottom. Raise your hand at the bottom. Go to participants. And yeah, I see some hands going up. This is awesome. Awesome. So I saw Tony first. Tony, what is the problem your business solves?
I teach non-clinical laypersons how to recognize and respond to common mental health challenges.
Okay, that's a little bit of a challenge for me because there's not a tangible there. So I'm going to ask you to say it in a different way, and maybe we can extract the tangible.
My niche is educating and empowering laypersons to help those who are struggling with mental health challenges.
Okay, there's nothing for me to grab in that. So first of all, laypersons is jargon. So what do you mean when you say that?
Non-clinical, non-professional.
There you go. Great. So give me an example of what that would be.
Employees, primarily in the workplace, who.
Okay, great. So I help non-mental health professionals like employees or managers in the workplace. Would that be accurate?
Correct.
Okay. And you help them to identify mental health challenges. Would that be correct?
Yes.
So that what?
So that we're promoting well-being in the workplace.
Okay, so promoting well-being is not tangible. I can't touch it on a desk. Guys, if you never get anything from me, what I'm going to give you in the next 30 seconds is life-changing. Life-changing. If you can't touch it on a desk, it's a problem business. I can't touch, right? So we promote wellness in the workplace. I can't touch it. So I need you to go further, Tony, right? When wellness in the workplace is promoted, what happens?
Recidivism, employee retention goes up.
Okay.
Creativity raises.
So yeah, I'm hearing productivity goes up, profits goes up, people stay longer. See, I can touch profits. I can pull out, I saw Barbara on here. Barbara, I usually keep, Barbara sends me money in cute little designs, and I put it in my desk, and then my son steals it every single time. But I can touch money. I can touch productivity. I can touch a calendar. I can touch. So I just want you to know, Tony, in that little bit, all of a sudden you went from somebody who can charge $500 to somebody who can charge $5,000. Does that make sense?
I already do.
Oh, that's great. And I appreciate that, but I guarantee you'll make more money if you are more clear.
Great.
Not about clear about what you do, because you're using a lot of jargon, which is okay, because maybe people pick up on that. But when you, right, what's your conversion rate?
My niche market is predominantly government agencies, corporations, and workplaces.
Yep. And so how many contracts do you take on a year?
It varies, but I have speaking engagements about 600 to 800 a year.
600 to 800 speaking gigs a year.
Yeah, they vary in size.
Okay. Yep. So I don't know what that translates to into conversion, but my point is that when we add tangibles, does this make sense, everybody? Can you give me a thumbs up? When we add tangibles to what it is you're doing, now I have a reason to write a check. What he gave me before, I'm not saying it wasn't a reason to write a check. Obviously, identifying mental health challenges is very important. But as a person who runs the budget, I need to know I'm going to get an ROI, whatever it is, right? Whether it's somebody working in corporate or somebody working individually. Okay, the next person I saw was Kara. Is it Kara? Dr. Kara Cruz?
Yes, you're right, Suzanne.
What's the problem you solve?
So I actually have an elevator speech. Did you want me to just go ahead with that?
Actually, just want the problem you solve, and it's very different than an elevator speech.
Okay. So women energy healers hire me to transform their business models and amplify their impact and income.
Okay, so I like that you got income in there. I would say that you're giving me some jargon that I don't need, right? I take energy healers into higher levels of income so they make more impact. Is that what you do? Is that the problem you solve?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Now, what you really gave me was what you do. If you were telling me what the problem was you solved, you actually would have said to me, and this is an important distinction, everybody, especially when I start getting into the framework for how to find your audience. Actually, the problem you solve is energy healers who aren't making enough money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do you see, like, that's the actual problem you solve. So think about flipping it as a problem. Most of you like to lead with the solution. This is going to blow your mind. Get ready for this, everybody. You like to lead with the solution, and people don't buy from solution. They actually buy from problem, right? They buy from problem because what do you think they're doing in the middle of the night? Are they solving their own problem? No, or they wouldn't need you. They're actually thinking about the problem. So they are more attracted to hearing a connection to the problem than the solution. Thumbs up, everybody. Does that make sense? I'm going to take one more, and I saw Judith Leary. It says Judith Leary Joyce. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but
yes, you are. Thank you.
go ahead. What is the problem your business solves?
Helping people make home energy efficient so it's cheaper to run and it helps the climate.
Okay, so you help people. That's actually a pretty clear, tangible. I mean, it's because it's also not related to people per se. It's related to energy. So I'm going to say thumbs up. Good. And I'm going to take one more quick because that's very clear. Miss Rose, what is your tangible? Oh, you're muted. What is the problem you solve?
Help people to revive their energy level.
Okay, I
You're
can't.
talking to Jan? I'm sorry.
I can't touch energy.
Oh, can you?
Oh, sorry, someone. Team, can you please mute? I've got people unmuted. Thank you.
All right. We're talking to Jan. I'm sorry, I'm hearing impaired, so I sometimes hear things I shouldn't hear.
That's okay. I'm talking to Miss Rose.
Okay, thank you.
So I can't touch energy. So if
They can fall in sleep easily and healthy, solve some light. Let's see, like someone has overweight, fat liver, those kind of situation. How should I word it?
Okay, stop 1 second. I'm not going to tell you how to word it because that's not what we're doing, and it's not important actually. So let me tell you why it's not important. First of all, and I'm sorry guys, if I do this, I won't get into the details of this. My computer got struck by lightning. I have a little bit of a microphone issue. Sometimes you can't hear me when I'm speaking. I'm waiting on the new laptop, you know, or the desktop. You know how this happens. So sorry if I go like this. It's just because you can't hear me. So you said being overweight. Guess what? I can touch fat. Touch fat. So all of a sudden, right, that becomes tangible. Like, what is the problem I solve? People being overweight and unhealthy, so they have no energy. See, go to the problem, not the solution. Now, this isn't a messaging call, but it kind of starts with messaging. Does that make sense, everybody? So I want to get into how does this, you can't touch confidence, Claudia, you can't. So if you can't touch it on a desk, it's a no-go for being tangible. You literally have to be able to touch it on a desk or I can touch a person, right? I can touch a clock or calendar. I can touch time. I can touch being overweight. I can touch money. I can touch, right? It literally, this is like the kicker is that Can you touch it on a desk, or can you physically reach out and touch it? So as we talk about the problem you solve, once you have that, you're going to kick into the way that you find your audience. Now, I can tell you, most of you have an audience problem. Just put yes in the chat if you feel like if you are actually talking to people, you always feel like you're hearing, I can't afford this, I don't know if this is right for me, I'm not sure, right? All of those uncertainties, all of that lack of urgency, all of those things represent a flawed audience. Because if you were with the right audience, and if you found the right audience, there would be, write this down, an incredible amount of urgency, an incredible amount of urgency. So when listen, I help people make 6 and 7 figures speaking from the stage in under 60 minutes. That's my message, right? It's just a quickie message. That's what I do. There's a great urgency for that. How many of you want to make 6 figures in under 60 minutes speaking from the stage? How many of you are like, that would solve a lot of problems, right? That has urgency to it, right? Feeling better doesn't have urgency to it. More energy is a nice, but not a necessary, right? It has to have urgency to it. So I'm going to walk you through the FIND formula. I'm going to walk you through the FIND formula. And hopefully this will be easy for you to remember, because it's F-I-N-D, right? F-I-N-D. I'm going to walk you through the FIND formula. And this is what you're looking for in your perfect fit audience. This is what you're looking for in the audience that is willing to spend money, that wants, right? That wants, hold on one second. I just want to make sure. Sorry, I'm just having a Zoom issue. Give me one second. Can you see me? You can. Okay.
Yes.
Very strange. It's like a lot of my, it might have just had an internet hiccup. A lot of my, of me being able to see you all, bubbles kind of went away. Okay, but it's coming back. I think it was an internet hiccup. So F-I-N-D, right? So it is the FIND formula. So first I'm just going to tell you what these stand for, and then we'll come back and I'll teach on them. Focus on failure. Okay. I, interview. N, notes on competition. And the D is define who it is not. Define who it is not, okay? So let's walk through each of these. So this is how, once you know the problem you solve, right, and you're really clear that you have a tangible problem that you solve, this is how you start to look for your audience that has urgency, which means they're going to want to pay you. They're going to want to pay you quickly, and they want to solve this problem quickly. You focus on failure. This is really hard for many of you, and it is one of the differentiators between true business owners and hobbyists. I want you to write that down. Am I a true business owner, or am I a hobbyist, right? This is one of the things that really, it's kind of the dividing line. And that is that a lot of you are focused on fixing people, helping people, serving people, impact. I've already heard impact 2 or 3 times today. Do you think I'm about impact? I am, but I can tell you this, I don't impact anybody unless I close them. Does that make sense, everybody? I might inspire somebody, I might get somebody excited, but the impact that I've had on thousands of people, Veronique Preen, a client of mine who came to me making $200 a month and now makes $3 million a year. Jean Kuhn, who came to me making $350 a month and makes $500,000 a year. Alexis Caldecott, who came to me with a business that was falling apart, and she was pregnant and she needed to completely shut it down, and we did. And starting from scratch, she now does events where she makes $200,000 in 3 days. Those folks, I could have inspired them, but the impact is impossible unless I actually work with them to take them through the process. So a lot of you are focused on helping, serving, healing, all of that. And that's great. Of course, that's what we do. But I need you to actually focus on the failure that is present for people, because that's the problem that's keeping them up at night, what they're failing at. And I don't mean that in any type of way that we're saying that they are a failure. You get that. Can I get a thumbs up? I'm not saying the person is, but there's something failing in their life, right? Their health is failing. Their marriage is failing. Their job is failing. Their business is failing. Their social media is failing. Their team in corporate is failing. They're failing to serve a certain population. Does that make sense, everybody? Can I just get a hell yeah if you're following me so far, right? I need you to focus on the failure, because when you focus on the failure, you have a more urgent audience. Can you just put a aha in the chat if that was an aha to you already? Right? Because I think you're always focusing on how can you help and how can you serve. But when you focus on what is failing, what's failing in their life, what's failing in their business, what's failing in their marriage, what's failing in their corporation, what's failing in their being, right? All of a sudden, you take urgency up like 50, 70%, right? So focus on the failure. That's the F here. The I is you interview, right? But I just want to see what Ellen's saying. She said, aha, I knew this, but if I focus on the fact that they aren't making enough money, don't I get people without money? Great question, Ellen. Let's use that as an example. I'm not saying you focus on failures. I'm saying you focus on a failing element of business. So, wow, I'm making $100,000 a year, but I've been making that for 3 years and I really want to get to 200,000. Something's failing in their strategy that prevents them from upping their revenue. Does that make sense, Ellen? Does that help? Right? So great question. So the second thing is interview. So James Roche, who's our director of marketing at our business, he does a phenomenal job of teaching and training on this, of talking about, right? Talking about in-depth interviews. So there's a few ways you can interview people. You can find people that you think are an ideal fit client and you can literally interview them, right? I mean, you could just interview them. When I was growing my business, I used all of my sales conversations as interviews. I told myself, and this is how I was so successful so quickly. I said, if I will just talk to people, have sales conversations, if they say no to me, at least I got data, right? At least I got data. And most of you don't have enough data. You go, oh, my business isn't working. You don't know if your business is working because you haven't performed enough volume. Does this make sense, everybody? To know if it's working or not. So you can do an interview through literally, if you're just starting out, talking to people, finding what you think are some right fit clients and talking to them, right? And doing that. You can also do it through sales conversations, right? Here's my favorite way to do it. Book speaking gigs, book virtual gigs, book in-person gigs, book small gigs. You will speak to an audience and the message that you share, you will find out, is this my right fit audience, right? What is my right fit audience? See, the problem with most of you, this is going to be a huge writer downer, is you're selling vitamins to people who need painkillers. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I never had a tooth issue in my life. A couple of months ago, I had a very dramatic tooth issue. It happened very quickly. I went to bed and woke up the next morning with softball lymph node. I got to the dentist that morning, and I've been telling this story the last couple of months. If that dentist would have looked at me and said, you know what, I think what you need to do is take a multivitamin. I'm sorry, y'all, but I would have kicked him in the crotch and burned his office down. I was in the most excruciating pain of my life. The night before, I ended up in the ER. I've never taken a narcotic in my life. I took all of them at the same time, and it still didn't help. It was terrible. And if in that level of pain, he'd looked at me and offered me a vitamin, I don't know what I would have done. And that's what most of you are doing. People need a painkiller, and you're offering them a vitamin to feel better, to be happier, to be more content. And those aren't tangible solutions, right? Christine said, specific person with specific problem with specific solution. Absolutely, but it must be a painkiller solution, right? So this is the way to interview. The third piece is notes on the competition. And I just love this. It's so easy to build a business today because your competitors are so visible. Does that make sense, everybody? When I was building my business years ago, we didn't have, social media was just starting. So we didn't have social. We didn't have the digital platforms that we have now. And now that we do, your competition is everywhere. Are you taking notes on how they speak? Are you taking notes on what they say? Are you taking notes, right, on how they bring up solution, how they talk about pain, especially those of your competitors that are very successful? I always say, and I don't mean this to be sarcastic, but truthfully, it is so easy to build a business today because all the information you need is being provided by people who do what you do, and they're doing it publicly, right? So are you taking notes on the competition of, and here's the things you need to know. Where are they speaking? What are they saying? Who is following them? And really, for finding your audience, the where and the who are the key ones here, right? Because that tells you, where are they finding these people? Who are these people that they're talking to, right? So that's the N. The D is define who your target market, who your audience is not. And this is a really murky place for so many people, is that you're really focused on figuring out who your audience is. That is important and it is key. But finding out who your audience is not is more important. It's more important. You will spend less money. You will spend less time. You will grow the business faster if you know exactly who this is not for. And I'll tell you, one of the tricks to any great book, I could pick up any great book on my bookshelf right now, and they'll say it in different ways, but the intro of the book will say who the book is for and who the book is not for. So if you go through a traditional publisher, it's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to require of you, like somewhere in the beginning of the book, say who the book is for, but also say who the book is not for. Same thing for your business, right? Who is this, the problem that I solve, who is this for, and who is this not for? This is scary to the beginning entrepreneur, and it's why you struggle to find your audience, because you just want to talk to everybody. Who can I help? Everybody. Bullshit. You cannot. Let me tell you, show you an example of this. If I had a brain tumor and I walked into a doctor's office wanting to get this taken care of, obviously it's urgent, and they said, absolutely, I'm the person to help you. I probably can't get you in until next week because I also do repair ligaments in the ankle and I do hysterectomies. I would not have them work on my brain. I would be like, absolutely not. Maybe you think you're multi-talented, but I want the dude or the dudette who just does brain tumors. And that is what we do with our health. That's what we would do with our kid, but you're not doing it with your business. So who is the specific audience that you serve, right? Do you serve meniscus tears and brain tumors, right? And so, no, right? It is one area. So it's very important that you get super clear about who your audience is not, right? Who your audience is not. So when you use this FIND formula, F-I-N-D, then you're able to go, where should I go out and speak, right? Where should I go out and speak? And that's what we're going to move to next, is there's 3 types of speaking gigs that you can use. And when I say speaking gigs, just so you know, speaking is the only way to grow a business right now. Come for me. Somebody want to argue about that? It's the only way to grow a business right now. And I can prove that to you. I can completely prove that to you. And here's how I can prove that to you. Name any highly successful person in your industry, and I'll tell you how they're succeeding right now. Put it in the chat. Think about what your industry is and list like the big kahuna, the person that like gets all the attention. hopefully I will know the people's names, but throw that into the chat. Like, who are some, now I'm not asking for the industry, I'm asking for the name. Who is a well-known name in Steve Jobs, right? I would like for them to be living. That would be helpful to me. Tony Robbins and Mel Robbins, both of them make their entire livings off of speaking. Joe Dispenza, entire living off of speaking. Now we're getting it. Throw me some more. Throw me some people in. Mel Robbins, the same. Jay Shetty, all speaking. Grant Cardone, all speaking. Susie Orman, all speaking. As a matter of fact, she just did a post about how she's coming back out and speaking again because she realizes it's the only way to keep her business afloat. And I don't know some of the names. Brene Brown, we wouldn't know Brene Brown's name if she hadn't done a TED Talk. So if you're not using speaking to grow your business, you're not going to grow your business. You must be a phenomenal speaker. You must be captivating. And from finding your audience, there's 3 places your audience will be, and you can go speak to them. And those are, you can buy stages, you can book stages, or you can build stages. Now, the way I have a $6-7 million business every year is I do all 3. I buy, book, and I build. And I'm going to walk you through all 3 of these. So speaking is your fastest path to cash. Speaking is the fastest way to grow an audience. And it is absolutely the best way for you to be able, it's the best way for you to be able to find your audience, get in front of your audience, and convert your audience from being an audience to being a client or a customer. So what is buying a stage? This is where you pay to get on someone's stages. This is, somebody said, speaking of Grant, would you consider Pete Vargas a competitor of yours? Yeah, absolutely. Pete and I are friends. We know each other, and he's absolutely a competitor of mine. You know, I supported Pete when he was making his offer on Grant Cardone's stage. I supported Pete on helping to craft that offer. And we've supported each other on many things over the years, but he's absolutely a competitor. Yeah. Do Facebook Lives count as speaking? Yes, they do. And we'll get into the different kinds of stages here. So buying a stage is you pay to speak on somebody's stage. What is brilliant about that is something that I call OPP. You want to write this down. OPP, other people's people. How many of you have no database or a very small database? It's under 1,500 people. Just put me in the chat. If you don't have a database or you have a very small database, just throw that in the chat. I would assume it's probably quite a few of you on here. So you should be able to generate, minimum $100,000. Sorry, I said that backwards. You should be able to generate $1 million from every 1,000 people you have on your database. So if you have a database right now that has 400 or 500 people in it, you should be able to do 500,000. I hit the about $600,000 mark when I had 527 people on my list. The reason is because it was the right audience. Does that make sense, everybody? I found the right audience. So if you are going to buy a stage, the beauty of that is OPP, other people's people. So people like me, right, who have an audience, we've built an audience. If you go, gosh, you know, because you've been taking what does the N stand for in find? What did the N stand for? Somebody put it in the chat, FIND. What were we doing with the end? You were taking notes on your competition. If you're taking notes on your competition, you go, wow, Suzanne Evans has my audience. How can I get to Suzanne Evans' audience? Well, one of the things we do is we have some sponsors at our events. If I have your audience, you would want to sponsor my event, get in front of my people, get on my stage. If you know that there's a life coach out there that does events or they do webinars or they do whatever, and they have your audience, hell of a lot cheaper and easier for you to piggyback. It's a piggyback method off of their audience than you trying to build your own, which you need to be doing, but it's not a super fast process. So this is how you buy stages and get, once you know who your audience is, you buy the opportunity to get in front of them. All right, booking stages is you find audiences that are perfect for you that take speakers. I'm going to give you a number that's going to absolutely blow your mind. And I want you to write it down. 7,000 meetings a day in North America who are looking for a speaker. 7,000 meetings a day. Now, let me be very clear. I'm talking about speaking for free, making a free offer, and turning those people into your clients and customers, right? I'm not even talking about keynotes. Some of those would be woven in, but I'm talking about people who are like, I run an organization, an association, a club, a meetup, a conference, an event, right? 7,000 a day just in North America who need a speaker. Let me give you another statistic. Please write this down, put it on a Post-it note, put it all over your house. I'm about to change your life. It takes 48 speaking gigs to make $1 million a year. 48 gigs. You right now, today, on Tuesday, March 19th, are 48 speaking gigs away from making $1 million. Now, if you say, well, I did 50 speaking gigs last year, then you've got to improve your speaking. You've got to improve, not the actual performance, but you don't know how to make an offer. You don't have the back end set up. There can be other issues, but a proper speech with a proper painkiller offer with your back end set up, 48 gigs to $1 million. And I can prove it because I have thousands of clients who are doing it. Thousands of clients who are doing it, and they do nothing else. They don't run funnels. They don't run Facebook ads. They don't have micro continuity programs. They don't do deep digital marketing. They speak and they make multiple 6 and 7 figures. Now, why is this so important to hear? We're talking about booking stages. I'm looking at Sarah. Sarah Barthel is a client of mine. Sarah, you're speaking all the time, aren't you? Thumbs up. This is how she gets the majority, and whether that's a Facebook Live or that's an in-person speech, right? That's how she's going to get the majority of her clients and customers, right? Of course, some will come in through referral and other sources. Teresa's a client of mine on here. She does multiple 6 figures, and she does it, I don't know, Teresa, you could put it in the chat, 100% from speaking, 90% from speaking. I'll let you tell the number, so I'm not speaking for you, but this is the fastest path to cash. And there's 7,000 meetings a day, 82% of her multiple 6 figures comes from speaking, right? So you book gigs, right? There's a multitude of ways to do this through organization, through association. The majority of Teresa's gigs that she books, the gigs that I book, the gigs that Sarah books, Susan Brady's on here. She is one of my lead coaches, but she was a client before she worked for me. Her entire business was built off of speaking and networking, majority speaking. We got all of our gigs from Google, the Google machine. That's not what today's class is about, how you do that, but it is the Google machine that you get them from. So that's how you book gigs. Now, let's go back to how you build your own stage, right? Let's go back to how you build your own stage. So we talked about buying stages, booking stages, building stages. What do you think I did today? This is building your own stage, right? So this is when you're using your own your own database or your own social media to do your own Facebook Live, your own webinar, your own event, right? That can be in person or it can be virtual, right? So on, right? I could keep sharing. But this is when you build your own opportunity, right? This is when you build your own opportunity, right? And bottom line is that the more you get clear about, let's go back to what the beginning of this training was, you find your audience, you know exactly who your audience is, and you're clear about that, the more that you're going to be able to do some of these other things, booking and buying, and that's going to naturally grow your audience. So everybody here, today's webinar came from a few places. Do you know if you came from a Facebook ad? If you came from a Facebook ad, put FB in the chat. If you think that you saw this on a Facebook ad and you clicked and then you came to this training, okay? See, you're seeing a few people there. I know quite a few people came from Facebook. How many of you are on my email list? Put email. And you came because we sent out an email. You decided to join us, right? And you came in that way, right? Great. Okay. Some people, in this case, I didn't have anyone else promote this. So you all either came from Facebook ads or you came from an email. Now, some of you don't know that you came from a Facebook ad because you came from a Facebook ad for a lead magnet. And then we shared this email with you to come to this training. Why is this so critical to understand? Because once you find your audience, you'll be able to eventually run Facebook ads, which makes Facebook ads cheaper and more effective. Once you find your audience, it's going to naturally grow your database, and then you're able to send out emails and do things like what we're doing right now, right? Which is a webinar or hosting your own events, right? I mentioned Alexis Caldecott earlier. Alexis hosts her own events, puts a few hundred people in them, does a couple of $100,000 from a 3-day event, right? Many of you will be able to, my clients, Ann Hession just did a webinar the other day. I think she did like $20,000 from a small offer that she put together. I think it was I can't remember if it was a $997 or a $500 offer. But once you start to get out to other people's people and you know your audience, then you'll be able to build your own audience. So here's the deal. You've got to be able to find your audience. You've got to focus on the failure. You have to interview people for multiple different ways. You've got to take notes on the competition, and you've got to define who it is not, right? Then you want to buy stages, book stages, and build stages. And you want to have a killer talk. You want to have a killer message with a problem you solve in your value proposition, and you want to have the right offers. Thank you, everybody. Go out and find your audience. Have an amazing day. Hugs and hell yes, everybody. See you later. I'm headed for a walk.